At Sunnydale Animal Shelter, a shocking and mysterious tale unfolds as Charlie, a fragile puppy, and Milo, an enigmatic cat with a soulful gaze, form an inexplicable bond. From the very moment Milo clutches onto Charlie, hints of a dark past and heart-wrenching secrets begin to surface. Before continuing the story, tell me which city you're watching from. I want to know how far this video has come. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so I can send you exciting stories like this every day. Thank you. The Sunnydale Animal Shelter stood on the outskirts of town, a haven for abandoned and rescued animals. It was a place of hope where creatures, big and small, found refuge from the harsh realities of life on the streets. The shelter's weathered brick exterior belied the warmth and compassion that resided within its walls. On a crisp autumn morning, the shelter's manager, Michael Thompson, arrived early as usual, ready to face whatever challenges the day might. Michael, a man in his late 50s with kind eyes and a salt and pepper beard, had dedicated his life to animal welfare. He had seen countless animals come and go over the years, each with their own story, but nothing could have prepared him for the arrival of Charlie and Milo. It was just after lunch when a battered pickup truck pulled into the shelter's parking lot. Michael watched from his office window as a middle-aged woman with graying hair stepped out, her face etched with worry. In her arms, she carried a small, trembling bundle of fur, while a cat carrier dangled from her other hand. As the woman approached the entrance, Michael made his way to greet her. "Welcome to Sunnydale Animal Shelter," he said warmly. "I'm Michael, the shelter manager. How can I help you today?" The woman's eyes darted nervously around the reception area before settling on Michael. "My name is Emily," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I need to leave these animals here. I can't keep them anymore." Michael's heart sank. He had heard similar words countless times before, but it never got easier. "I see," he said gently. "Can you tell me a bit about them?" Emily's eyes welled up with tears as she looked down at the bundle in her arms. "This is Charlie," she said, indicating the tiny puppy. "He's about 4 months old, and in the carrier is Milo, a White House cat. She's around 8 years old." As if on cue, a soft whimper escaped from Charlie, followed by a comforting meow from the carrier. Michael's brow furrowed. It wasn't uncommon for animals to be distressed when brought to the shelter, but something about the interaction between Charlie and Milo struck him as unusual. "They seem very attached to each other," Michael observed. "Are they from the same household?" Emily nodded, her expression a mixture of sadness and relief. "Yes, they are. I found them. They need a safe place, and I heard your shelter was the best in the area." Michael smiled softly. "We do our best here at Sunnydale. Can you fill out some paperwork for us? It helps us understand the animals' backgrounds and needs better." As Emily filled out the forms, Michael gently took Charlie from her arms. The puppy was small for his age, with soft golden fur that was matted in places. His big brown eyes were filled with fear, and he trembled uncontrollably. When Michael set him down on the examination table, Charlie let out a heart-wrenching cry. Immediately, there was a commotion from the cat carrier. Michael opened it, expecting Milo to bolt or hiss. Instead, the white cat calmly stepped out and made a beeline for Charlie. To Michael's astonishment, Milo wrapped her paws around the puppy in what could only be described as a hug. Charlie's cries subsided to soft whimpers as he buried his face in Milo's fur. Michael had seen many unusual animal behaviors in his years at the shelter, but this level of interspecies comfort and protection was rare. He turned to Emily, who was watching the scene with a mixture of sadness and relief. "They're always like this," Emily explained, her voice catching. "Milo never leaves Charlie's side. It's like she's trying to protect him from the world." Michael nodded, his mind racing with questions. But before he could ask more, Emily handed him the completed paperwork along with a small envelope. "There's some money in there," she said quickly. "It's not much, but it should help with their care for a while. I'll come back to visit them when I can." And with that, Emily turned and hurried out of the shelter, leaving Michael standing there with more questions than answers. He looked down at Charlie and Milo, still huddled together on the examination table inside. "Well, little ones," he said softly, "welcome to Sunnydale. Let's get you settled in." Over the next few days, Michael and the shelter staff worked tirelessly to make Charlie and Milo comfortable. They were given a spacious kennel to share, complete with soft beds, toys, and plenty of food and water. But despite their best efforts, Charlie continued to cry almost constantly, his tiny body shaking with each whimper. Milo remained his constant companion, always nearby, always ready with a comforting nuzzle or embrace. What puzzled Michael and the staff most was the animal's complete lack of interest in socializing with others. Most dogs and cats brought to the shelter were eager to interact with humans and other animals seeking attention and affection, but Charlie and Milo seemed to exist in a world of their own, oblivious to anything beyond their shared space. Michael tried various techniques to help them adjust. He spent hours sitting quietly near their kennel, speaking in soft, whacked, soothing tones. He introduced them to calm, friendly dogs and cats, hoping to spark some interest. He even brought in a child development specialist who sometimes volunteered at the shelter, thinking that perhaps Charlie and Milo might respond to a different kind of energy. But nothing seemed to work. Charlie continued to cry, and Milo continued to comfort him. They ate little, played less, and showed no signs of the usual curiosity and playfulness one would expect from a puppy and a cat. As the days turned into weeks, Michael found himself increasingly preoccupied with Charlie and Milo's case. He'd stay late at the shelter, researching unusual animal behaviors and consulting with veterinary behaviorists. He couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to their story than Elin had shared. One evening, as Michael was preparing to leave for the night, he heard a commotion at the shelter's front desk. Hurrying to investigate, he found Elin standing there, looking flustered and out of breath. "I'm sorry," she panted. "I know it's late, but I had to come. I have something you need to see." In her hands, Elin clutched a battered VHS tape. Michael's heart sank as he realized what it might contain. "Is this about Charlie and Milo?" he asked quietly. Elin nodded, her eyes brimming with tears. Their previous owner, he recorded things. Terrible things. I couldn't bring myself to watch it all, but I knew you needed to see it to understand. Michael led Elin to his office, where an old TV and VCR sat in the corner. Relics from a time before everything went digital. With shaking hands, he inserted the tape and pressed play. What unfolded on the screen was nothing short of a nightmare. The grainy footage showed a dimly lit room where a man's voice could be heard laughing cruelly. The camera panned to show Charlie, even smaller than when he'd arrived at the shelter, cowering in a corner. Without warning, the man appeared in frame, holding a pot of steaming water. Michael watched in horror as the man poured the boiling water over Charlie's tiny body. The puppy's cries were heart-wrenching, but as Michael had noticed at the shelter, they were strangely faint, as if Charlie had learned that loud cries would only bring more pain. The scene then shifted to show Milo confined to a small cage in the corner of the room. The cat looked emaciated, her once white fur matted and dirty. The man's voice could be heard again, taunting Milo as he withheld food and water. Then, without warning, he produced a stick and began beating the helpless cat, focusing particularly on her left hind leg. Michael couldn't bear to watch anymore. He switched off the TV, his hands shaking, and his eyes filled with tears. He turned to Emily, who was sobbing quietly in her chair. How did you come across this?" Michael asked, his voice hoarse with emotion. Emily took a deep breath, trying to compose herself. "I'm a social worker," she explained. "I was assigned to check on a family after reports of domestic violence. When I arrived at the house, I found it abandoned. The family had fled, leaving Charlie and Milo behind. I found them huddled together in a closet, along with this tape. I couldn't just leave them there." Michael nodded, understanding now why Emily had been so secretive when she first brought Charlie and Milo to the shelter. She had been protecting them and herself from the legal complications that might arise from removing the animals from the property. "Thank you for bringing this to me," Michael said softly. "It explains so much about their behavior. The trauma they've endured, it's unimaginable." Emily nodded, wiping her eyes. "I wish I could have done more for them. I can't take them myself. My landlord doesn't allow pets, but I had to make sure they were safe." Michael reached out and patted Emily's hand. "You did the right thing bringing them here, and now that we know what they've been through, we can better help them heal." After Emily left, Michael sat in his office for a long time, processing what he had seen. The cruelty inflicted on Charlie and Milo was beyond comprehension, but it explained their behavior perfectly. Charlie's constant crying, his fear of loud noises and sudden movements, it all stemmed from the trauma of the boiling water. And Milo's protective behavior towards Charlie, her reluctance to leave his side, she had appointed herself his guardian, determined to shield him from further harm. With this new understanding, Michael formulated a plan. He knew that helping Charlie and Milo overcome their trauma would be a long and challenging process, but he was more determined than ever to see it through. The next morning, Michael called a staff meeting to share what he had learned. There wasn't a dry eye in the room as he recounted the contents of the videotape. But along with the sadness and anger came a renewed sense of purpose. Every person in that room vowed to do whatever it took to help Charlie and Milo heal. They started by creating a quiet, secluded space for Charlie and Milo away from the main kennel area. The room was equipped with soft lighting, calming music, and plenty of cozy hiding spots. Michael worked with a veterinary behaviorist to develop a specialized care plan, which included gentle handling techniques, positive reinforcement training, and a gradual socialization program. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months. Progress was slow but steady. Charlie's crying episodes became less frequent, and he began to show interest in toys and treats. Milo started to relax her vigilant watch over Charlie, allowing herself to enjoy the occasional sun puddle or catnip toy. Michael spent countless hours with them, often just sitting quietly in their room, reading a book or doing paperwork. His calm presence seemed to soothe them, and gradually they began to seek out his attention. The first time Charlie wagged his tail at Michael's approach, the shelter manager felt his heart soar, and when Milo finally allowed Michael to stroke her fur without flinching, he had to blink back tears of joy. As Charlie and Milo's recovery progressed, Michael began to think about their future. Most animals at Sunnydale were put up for adoption after a few weeks, but he knew that Charlie and Milo would need a very special home. They had formed such a strong bond that separating them was out of the question, and their new family would need to understand their history and be committed to continuing their rehabilitation. Months passed, and while many potential adult adopters showed interest in the sweet puppy and his feline protector, none seemed quite right. Michael found himself becoming increasingly attached to Charlie and Milo, but he knew that as the shelter manager, he couldn't keep them himself. Then on a sunny Saturday afternoon, a couple walked in. James and Ashley Miller were in their early 60s, with kind faces and an air of quiet competence. They had recently retired and were looking to adopt a pet to keep them company. As Michael gave them a tour of the shelter, he found himself drawn to their gentle demeanor and thoughtful questions. When they reached Charlie and Milo's room, he hesitated for a moment before opening the door. "I'd like to introduce you to two very special residents," Michael said softly. "This is Charlie and Milo. They've been with us for several months now, and they have quite a story." James and Ashley entered the room quietly, their eyes widening as they took in the sight of Charlie curled up against Milo's side. As Michael recounted their history, leaving out the most graphic details but emphasizing the bond between the two animals, he saw tears welling up in Ashley's eyes. "Oh, James," she whispered, reaching for her husband's hand. "They've been through so much." James nodded, his own eyes suspiciously bright. "They certainly have, but look at how far they've come, thanks to Michael and the shelter staff." Michael watched as James and Ashley spent the next hour in the room with Charlie and Milo. They didn't try to force interaction, instead allowing them to approach them in their own time. By the end of the visit, Charlie had cautiously sniffed James's outstretched hand, and Milo had settled nearby, watching with cautious interest. As they prepared to leave, Ashley turned to Michael. "We came here thinking we might adopt a cat or a dog," she said. "We never imagined we'd fall in love with both. Do you think, would it be possible for us to adopt Charlie and Milo together?" Michael felt a lump form in his throat. "I think that would be wonderful," he managed to say. "But I want you to understand, they still have a long way to go in their recovery. It won't always be easy," James nodded solemnly. "We understand, but Ashley and I, we've got all the time in the world now. And if these two have taught us anything in the short time we've known them, it's that love and patience can work miracles." Over the next few weeks, James and Ashley visited the shelter regularly, spending time with Charlie and Milo, and learning about their care routines. Michael was impressed by their dedication and the gentle way they interacted with the animals. Finally, the day came for Charlie and Milo to go to their new home. As Michael helped load their belongings into James and Ashley's car, he felt a mixture of joy and sadness. He was thrilled that Charlie and Milo had found such a perfect family, but he would miss them terribly. Just before they left, Ashley pulled Michael aside. "We want you to know," she said softly, "that you'll always be welcome to visit. We consider you part of their family too." Michael smiled, blinking back tears. "Thank you," he said. "That means more than you know." As he watched the car drive away, Charlie's little face peering out the back window and Milo curled up on the seat beside him, Michael felt a sense of peace wash over him. He knew there would be challenges ahead for Charlie and Milo, but he also knew that with James and Ashley's love and patience, they would continue to heal and thrive. That evening, as Michael locked up the shelter, he paused to look up at the stars twinkling in the clear night sky. He thought about Charlie and Milo, about Emily's bravery in rescuing them, about James and Ashley's open hearts, and he was reminded once again of why he had chosen this path in life. In a world that could sometimes be cruel and unforgiving, places like Sunnydale Animal Shelter stood as beacons of hope and compassion. And for animals like Charlie and Milo, that made all the difference. As Michael turned to leave, he heard a soft meow. Looking down, he saw a scrawny tabby cat sitting at the shelter's front steps, looking up at him with hopeful eyes. Michael smiled and knelt down to offer his hand to the newcomer. "Well, hello there," he said softly. "Looks like you could use a friend. Come on in, let's get you settled." And with that, Michael opened the shelter doors once more, ushering in the newcomer. As he went through the familiar routine of intake and initial care, his mind wandered to Charlie and Milo, hoping they were settling well into their new home. Over the next few weeks, Michael found himself checking his phone more often than usual, eagerly awaiting updates from James and Ashley. They had promised to keep him informed about Charlie and Milo's progress, and true to their word, they sent regular messages and photos. The first update came just 2 days after the adoption. Ashley had sent a picture of Charlie curled up in a sunny spot on their living room rug, with Milo keeping watch nearby. "They're exploring the house little by little," Ashley wrote. "Charlie still gets startled easily, but he's showing curiosity about his new surroundings." A week later, James sent a video that brought tears to Michael's eyes. It showed Charlie cautiously approaching a toy ball, giving it a tentative sniff before gently pawing at it. In the background, Milo could be seen watching attentively, as if ready to intervene if needed. But for the first time, Milo seemed relaxed, her tail curled contentedly around her paws. "It's a small step," James's message read, "but it feels like a huge victory. He played for almost 5 minutes today." As the days passed, the updates became more frequent and more heartening. There was a photo of Milo sunbathing on a windowsill, her eyes half closed in contentment. Another showed Charlie accepting a treat directly from Ashley's hand, his tail giving a slight wag. But it was the video that arrived a month after the adoption that truly took Michael's breath away. In it, Charlie and Milo were in the backyard. Charlie, still cautious, but with a new spring in his step, was chasing a butterfly. His little yips of excitement were clear and strong, a far cry from the muted whimpers he'd arrived with at the shelter. Milo sat nearby, alert but relaxed, no longer feeling the need to be in constant physical contact with Charlie. "We had a breakthrough today," Ashley's accompanying message read. For the first time, Charlie played outdoors without showing signs of fear, and listened to his bark. It's like he's found his voice again. Michael watched the video several times, marveling at the transformation. He shared it with the shelter staff, and there wasn't a dry eye in the room. It was moments like these that made all the hard work, all the heartache worthwhile. As autumn turned to winter, the updates continued to flow. There were cozy scenes of Charlie and Milo cuddled together by the fireplace, and playful moments of them batting at ornaments on the lower branches of the Christmas tree. James and Ashley's love and patience were clearly paying off, helping Charlie and Milo overcome their traumatic past. One snowy evening in January, as Michael was preparing to close the shelter for the night, he received an unexpected call from Ashley. "Michael," she said, her voice filled with excitement, "we were wondering if you might be free to come over for dinner this weekend." James and I, well, we have something we'd like to discuss with you, and we think Charlie and Milo would love to see you. Intrigued and a little nervous, Michael agreed. That Saturday, he found himself pulling up to James and Ashley's charming suburban home, a mixture of anticipation and anxiety swirling in his stomach. As he approached the front door, he could hear the excited patter of paws from inside. When Ashley opened the door, Michael was greeted by an incredible sight. There was Charlie, tail wagging furiously, letting out happy little barks, and right beside him stood Milo, her white fur gleaming, a gentle purr rumbling in her throat. "Well, hello there," Michael said softly, kneeling down to their level. He extended his hand slowly, allowing them to approach at their own pace. To his amazement and delight, both Charlie and Milo came forward without hesitation. Charlie gave his hand an enthusiastic lick, while Milo rubbed her head against his knee. "They remembered you," James said, smiling broadly as he joined them in the entryway. "We weren't sure if they would, but look at them. They're so happy to see you." Dinner was a joyous affair, with Charlie and Milo never straying far from the table. Michael was amazed at how far they'd come. Charlie, once so fearful and withdrawn, now confidently begged for scraps with puppy dog eyes that were hard to resist. Milo, while still protective of Charlie, had developed a regal air, surveying her domain from various perches around the room. As they finished their meal, James and Ashley exchanged a look. "Michael," Ashley began, "we wanted to talk to you about something important." Michael felt a momentary pang of worry. Were they having trouble with Charlie and Milo? Did they need to return them to the shelter? But the smiles on James and Ashley's faces quickly dispelled his concerns. "Ever since we adopted Charlie and Milo," James continued, "we've been thinking a lot about the work you do at the shelter. The way you help these two heal, the second chance you gave them, it's truly inspiring." Ashley nodded in agreement. "We've been looking for a way to give back, to help other animals like Charlie and Milo, and we think we found a way to do that." They went on to explain that they had decided to establish a foundation in Charlie and Milo's names. The foundation would provide funding for animal shelters to create specialized rehabilitation programs for abused and traumatized animals. "We want to help other shelters implement the kind of program you developed for Charlie and Milo," Ashley explained, "and we'd like you to be on the board of directors to help guide the foundation's work." Michael was speechless. He looked from James and Ashley to Charlie and Milo, who were curled up together on their bed in the corner of the room, the picture of contentment. He thought about all the animals still out there suffering and in need of help, and he thought about the difference this foundation could make in their lives. I don't know what to say," Michael finally managed. "This is incredible. Of course, I'd be honored to be part of it." The rest of the evening was spent discussing plans for the foundation. As Michael prepared to leave, he knelt down once more to say goodbye to Charlie and Milo. As he scratched behind Charlie's ears and stroked Milo's soft fur, he marveled at how far they'd come and how many lives they would touch through this new foundation. Driving home that night, Michael felt a renewed sense of purpose. He thought about the frightened, traumatized animals that had arrived at his shelter all those months ago, and the happy, loved pets he'd seen tonight. And he knew that thanks to James and Ashley's generosity and Charlie and Milo's inspiring journey, many more animals would get the second chance they deserved. In the years that followed, the Charlie and Milo Foundation grew beyond anyone's expectations. Shelters across the country implemented specialized rehabilitation programs, helping countless abused and traumatized animals heal and find loving homes. Michael split his time between managing the Sunnydale Shelter and traveling to advise other shelters on best practices for animal rehabilitation. And Charlie and Milo? They lived out their days in comfort and love with James and Ashley, serving as the furry faces of the foundation that bore their names. Their story of resilience and healing inspired animal lovers around the world, reminding everyone of the transformative power of love, patience, and second chances. On warm summer evenings, visitors to James and Ashley's home might catch a glimpse of an unusual sight in the backyard, a gentle dog and a watchful cat playing together in the fading sunlight. And those who knew their story would smile, knowing that the unlikely friendship between Charlie and Milo was a testament to the unbreakable bond that can form between animals who have weathered storms together. As for Michael, He never forgot the day Charlie and Milo came into his life. Their story reminded him daily of why he had chosen this path and why he continued to fight for animals in need. Every time he welcomed a new animal into the shelter, he thought of Charlie's frightened whimpers and Milo's protective embrace, and he promised each one, just as he had promised Charlie and Milo all those years ago. You're safe now. Your new life begins today. If Charlie and Milo's journey has touched your heart, join us in spreading this message of love and hope. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel so you never miss another heartwarming story, miraculous recovery journey, or inspiring video. Every subscription is not just a vote of support, it's a commitment to bring light to dark places and to give every little creature a chance to live in love and happiness. Thank you for watching, and together let's build a community that radiates trust and compassion every day. See you in our next video.